Hi, everybody, and welcome back. This is School at Home with me, Joe Scott, and my friend Rebecca Berry. And this week, well, we made it. We made it through week one. So congratulations. Some of us had it like, woo, we got this. And others were like, woo, okay, we got this. So, hey, but again, we're here with you and we got this. This week, I'm going to be answering a couple of questions that Rebecca asked me. And the questions were, what do you do when your child has a meltdown and decides they can't work anymore? And the second question was, how do you help your child be able to tell when they need a break, be able to regulate for themselves? And so I'm going to be answering those questions. But the reason why I know about these things is, aside from teaching, I went on and continued my education in counseling. So I have a master's degree in human service counseling that right now I use at home. And so, but it's a great resource to use, especially in this time. So knowing how to help a child through an escalation is what we're going to call it, an escalation, and knowing how to self-monitor are great skills for all types of children, not just children with special needs or with special behavioral needs. And especially in this time where everything is kind of upset and shaken, that our normal is no longer normal. You may be seeing a lot of strong emotions in your children and then displaying them in a way that is not polite. We'll go with that. They're displaying emotions in a way that are not polite. So we're going to talk through some strategies of helping them to be able to handle those strong emotions and how to validate their emotions. Right now, when we're looking through the news, we're seeing adults that are not handling their strong emotions politely. So expecting children to be able to do it in that manner is kind of not really acceptable. I guess that's what I'll use. So I'm going to share my screen and show you some resources that I have. And let's get to it. Also, it's Saturday morning in the Scott house. So as much as I'm going to try to keep my people quiet, the reality is my people are awake and it's Saturday morning. So this is not the order. So we're going to go back a couple of slides and then we'll get to these if we do. But this first one is the Escalation Cycle. So the website that I got this from is on the bottom of the screen, and I recommend checking out this woman's site because she talks about the whole escalation cycle and what happens in the brain when a child goes through a fit, goes through an escalation. And I'm not going to get into all of that now, but if you want to know more, it is fascinating. But the main thing to take away from this is that it might feel like your child was like, hey, you're sitting there and all of a sudden you've lost your mind. What happened? But there is a cycle that they're going through. And sometimes it's quiet and sometimes it's little things that you can notice. And then all of a sudden they're at a peak. And the peak is the obvious. We're crying or we're yelling or we're angry. And that's the obvious point. But there are other parts to it that get to that peak. And there's ways to communicate with a child during all of those different portions before you get to the peak. One of the best things that I've learned, though, is when a child's at a peak, do not try to reason with them. That is not a reasonable human being. Granted, there may not be a reasonable human being before that, but definitely when you have a yelling, screaming child, do not try to reason with them. They mainly don't even try to talk to them. They're not hearing you anymore. One of my favorite parts of this cycle is showing that the de-escalation is a process. It's not just peak and then drop. And it's a process where a child can go all the way low, and that post-crisis depletion, where you might have a sleeping kid after a crisis, like really they were just here and now they're asleep. That shows you this is completely normal. That's a completely normal part of the cycle. But we're going to talk about different ways to de-escalate, and then and ways to start noticing where the trigger is happening. Like if they're doing work and you notice they're kind of typing on that keyboard a little aggressively. It's like, there might be something happening. Why are we getting frustrated here? And you'll notice that before you get to that peak. So let's go on and let's talk about some de-escalation strategies. These de-escalation techniques, I tell people they are my favorite. I've posted them on Facebook before, but I know like for people in my generation and before, they're a little counterintuitive. What was it? Number 15 says avoid the word no. And some people are like, hold on, but when I say no, they need to be able to hear the word no. And there is a valid point to that. At the same time, there's other ways to not have that word be a trigger. And so when a child is saying, I want 3 extra snacks, and instead of saying no, you can be, hey, I understand that. Let's talk about that a little later. Or let's start with 1 and see if you're hungry later. Okay. And then you're able to continue moving on without getting into that power struggle of no. Another one of my favorites on here is get on your child's level. And for me, that means let's not yell for my child across the room, especially if they are starting to escalate. Hey, come here. That's not going to work. I need to go into that space that my child is in. I need to be at eye level with that child. And I need to be able to make sure that my voice matches the calm that I want to instill in the child. And so that's making sure your body language is calm, because not just are they going to be able to tell from their own energy that everything is agitated, but they're going to pick up on yours as well. One of the favorite, best things that I have ever heard was when I was a 22-year-old foster mom to 16-year-olds. I know, crazy person. Our director said, you are the adult. At the end of the day, you are the adult. It means that you don't have to yell, you don't have to scream, you don't have to threaten. You are the adult. They can rant and rave and say, I'm not going to do this, that, and the other thing. Okay. They're valid in not wanting to do something, but you're also valid in not providing something. Everything that they want does not have to happen. So that means that if you are given a direction, you need to do this, and that escalates to a peak, okay, you don't have to do it, but you also don't have to have screen time. You don't have to go to a friend's house. So, but it doesn't have to be a battle. That's just, this is this. That's what it is. So that's de-escalation, but it's also not taking away your power as a parent. Your power as a parent, you're the adult. And so we are the people that get to teach them how to handle those strong emotions without putting our emotions back on them. Easier said than done. Yes, I completely agree. It's not perfect. It's not fail-proof. And you definitely get to learn the personality of your child, because not every one of these will work with every child. Some of these will tick a child off, but some of them will work for you. Okay, let's move on. At the end of an escalation, it is great work to restore the relationship, or what's the word, process. Talk about what happened. So that's exactly what the first box says, is what happened. And that is everything that happened. You may not have all of the room on this sheet, but it is everything that happened from start to finish. It's not just, I got mad. It's this happened and this happened and this happened and this happened. And get it all out there. And then you ask, how did you feel? How do you feel? And that can be one feeling, that can be all of the emotions. And then you rate them. And so if I feel angry, okay, scale of 1 to 100, which seems a little ridiculous to some, but okay, go ahead, give it a number. One person might say 45,000. Okay, write down 45,000. I'm not going to say it has to be 100. No, it's going to be 45,000. All right, go for it. Now, what evidence supports your feelings? So if you are feeling that nobody listens to you, and you feel that to 1,000, okay, what evidence supports that? Well, you said this and you said this and you said this, but I said this and you didn't listen. Okay, what else? Tell me what else supports your feeling. Okay, and then you can answer questions like, you don't get to do this, 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 and this because we don't have the resources for this, 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 and this. Or you're angry. And what evidence supports that is you raged out. Yeah, but what are you angry about? You're angry that, get Michael. You're angry that such and such happened. Okay, then why did that happen? Go through that whole piece of it. Okay. Now let's ask who has been affected. Good old cause and effect balance. You go through it. Who does it feel affected? Okay. Now how do you feel? Do you feel like we still don't listen to you? Do you feel like we still are angry? And rate that. Because it may have been, I heard you. I heard you say that you want to do this thing. I get it. It doesn't mean that we can do it. I hear that you're angry, that you don't want to do X, Y, Z. But this is why it actually needs to happen. Okay. Now do you feel like you're not listened to? Listening to and doing what you want us to do are two different things. Now what evidence do you have for your feelings? Okay, go through it again. Then what do you think needs to happen or needs to be done to make things right? And that's their work. Thank you. That's their work. They have to make a restore. They have to restore the relationships that have been strained because of their actions. We've been giving these types of sheets to about 6-year-olds in the public schools. Do not bring that closer, little girl. Go back to the living room. I love you. Thank you. Yes, we start in kindergarten with helping children process through vague issues and keep that work going on through high school. And the more focused that it is, the better, because you're really able to work through what happened, what feelings were there, what thought distortions were there, and then how to break through it for the next time. It also gives you a picture into what their thought patterns are, and so you can see when it's coming. All right, so there are some other resources on this, and there's going to be a link to this slide share and these documents in the description. But this is a way that we help students be able to pinpoint what their emotions are. We do check-ins. And so it says what zone am I in? And there's 4 zones. The colors coordinate with the emotions. My favorite 2 are 1, which is you're sad, you're tired, you're bored, you're like that lethargic kind of like person. Yes, that description is perfect. And then 4, where 4 you might think it's just angry, just that rage child, but there's also elated. And elated is that hyper, super like woo person. And that one is so close emotionally to out of control and too angry that it's, dude, do you recognize that too? And so, and it's when you're able to be able to say, okay, I'm in these different zones, then can you bring yourself back to a 2? Can you be chill? Or what do you need to do to get back into control? You need to go outside. Here are some options. You can go outside. You can go take a walk. You can get a drink of water. There are some different options that you have to get yourself back to regulated. So that is a form that's on here. Strategies for learners with attention issues, which again, we're doing virtual learning. Everyone's likely going to have an attention issue at some point. And so these are great, great things. And then there is things I control and things I don't control, which is a circle of control. This is a blank form. This one is filled out for you. And it is literally things I control and things I don't. And so what do you need to be frustrated about? Or what don't you? What do you need to be anxious about? Well, not necessarily anxious about, but what can you handle? And then what do you not? And so if you're noticing that a child is anxious about what other people think of them, or what's for dinner, or the internet speed is out of control, or this, that, the other thing, those aren't things you control. So you don't even need to carry them. And this is a great reminder of, okay, I can take care of my thoughts, my words, my actions, but I can't take care of any of those other big things, including what's for dinner. And that takes a load off of the young mind. I can't control. I may not like that I can't control it, but you have no control of those. So let's focus on what you do. So again, all of these will be in a document share link in the description. If you have other questions, please write us at school@home@christianfellowship.com. And I'm going to stop the share, and Rebecca's going to speak with us.
So this week I am answering Joe's question, which is about how do we get, if we're doing homeschool. So this is really a homeschool only question. So if you're doing online learning, it doesn't apply to you as much as Joe's stuff. You can feel free to listen, but this is more for the kids that are not doing private school or public school right now. So she wondered, how do I get my kids involved in activities at public school or private school, classes, special activities, sports, things like that. And I have some experience with that. So I'm going to share what I know today. So we have done things at various levels. So we've done public school activities where we have, when one of my kids was in preschool and needed speech therapy, but we were homeschooling. A different kid needed speech therapy in elementary school. So we've had special ed stuff. Last year was the first year that they added anybody above 5th grade could now get special education help, even if they were homeschooled. My suggestion, if you want to do any of these public school things except for gifted, you need to just call your school building and they'll tell you how they handle it. And from what I understand, it's at their discretion. So it's possible that one school building in Columbia, Missouri might have a different take on it than a different school building. So you, wherever you live, figure out which is your school. That's who you have to deal with or get to deal with. The people that I've dealt with have been really great. One of my kids did electives in middle school, and I mostly dealt with the counselor, and she told me that he could also take anything he wanted. He could take foreign language, he could take art, he was in orchestra. She said if I wanted him to stay and do math class afterwards or history class or whatever, that would be totally fine too. So they were super helpful and flexible as far as me outsourcing things. I can't teach my son the violin. At that point, we didn't want to be paying someone for private lessons because we weren't really sure if he was going to like it or not. So we figured he could try orchestra class at public school, see how it went, and they were really good to work with. This year, before COVID, I asked about extracurricular activities and sports. And the public school has to abide by MISHA guidelines. So Missouri, it's like Missouri High School Athletic Association or something. And there are 2 different places in it. And I think it's up to the school's discretion. It appears to me that the kid could be in 2 classes in seat at the school and participate in sports and extracurricular activities. However, the person that I asked, who was the sports and activities director at the school, said that they had to be in seat all of the classes. So I don't know if it's a district level decision where they can say, yeah, we'll let you participate if you're only in 2 classes, or if it's a school building decision. But for us, they weren't going to allow us to participate. We were asking about quiz bowl and basketball. They said, nope, you can't do those unless you're in seat for the entire day. I also, once COVID came, asked about just taking one online class. I asked about just doing online science with Columbia Public Schools. And I actually asked the director of the online program for all of the district, and he said he thought that would be fine. Now, you're going to have to talk to your own building and see if they can make it work out. But it sounds like from the district level, that would be okay. If there's one class where you're just like, I cannot do math, I need them to have a math teacher, and I don't want to pay however much it is to get a private teacher, it sounds like they can just do math with the public school online, which I thought was great and a really good resource. We have also done some private school things. Again, you'll just need to call the school for availability. My son started taking some classes at Christian Fellowship School at the church when he was in middle school. And so I think that's probably easier than elementary. Elementary, they're just with one teacher all day. So they might switch the order of activities. It might be more complicated. I don't know. I never looked into that. The other thing to think about is if the class is already full, they may not allow you to put your child in for just one class. Now, if the teacher's super competent, they may feel comfortable with adding one kid for one class, but in general, it's going to depend on, do they have a full class load who are going full time? Because that's really what they're made to do. But they've been really good to work with. He's done English and science and math at Christian Fellowship. And I know that they have had high schoolers do it in the past. This actually was the first time they had middle schoolers come for just 1 or 2 classes. And right now at Christian Fellowship, the middle school, if they take 2 classes, they're allowed to participate in sports. I think in high school, they won't be able to participate unless they're full-time, is my understanding right now. We've also done some things with Heritage Academy. Heritage Academy is set up for this type of thing. They only have classes on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and they have it where you can just pay for one class. So when my son was in 2nd grade, he went there for their elementary enrichment program, which at that time it was on one day of the week. They did a science lab and an art class and a music class and PE. So it was one morning, one day a week. And that was really good for us because I wanted him to get those other things, those hands-on things that I wasn't going to have time to do because I had an infant and an 18-month-old and another student in elementary as well. So that was great for me. There are a lot of other programs in Columbia, and we've tried some of them, and some of them have been great. Some of them have been not as great. So I would just look for whatever you can. One other thing, if you're up on public school, the gifted program, they have their own building. So if COVID wasn't happening, what you would do is you would call their building and ask when their next assessment is for private and homeschool kids. There's tons of private school and homeschool kids who are participating in the gifted program in the elementary age. I've only dealt with the elementary age, so I'm not sure what they would say if your child was older. But it was really a blessing to our family. One of our kids got to do it, and in elementary they go to the gifted building one full day a week. So like from 8:30 to 2:30, that's where they go, instead of being a pull-out class where you have to drop them off for 40 minutes and figure out something to do and then go pick them up, which is what happens in middle school and high school. I'm not even sure if high school is just honors classes or what they do. I know they have a resource room. I don't know what else they have. As far as finding out about homeschool resources, the Mid-Missouri Co-op of Home Educators is really helpful. I've been part of it some years and not part of it other years, so this isn't a commercial necessarily. You do have to help with one monthly activity or with some age group field trips if you participate, and it does cost $35, but they send out, you probably get a couple emails a day about homeschool opportunities in Columbia and the area around it. So the monthly events they have before COVID, they had spelling bee, they have a fall picnic, they have a winter carnival, they have a science fair where your kid can actually do a science project and be judged by science teachers and science professionals. They have age group field trips. So if you have a preschooler, they have preschool age field trips. We've done the water treatment plant, the recycling center, the post office, the airport, the fire station, and the police station with this group. So if you're looking for a way to get those things happening now with COVID, everything's different. From what I understand, they're still trying to plan events and doing more outside activities. But before COVID, just getting the emails was usually worth your money for the year. So if you have any questions about other resources in Columbia, or if you know of any, please let us know. And we are so happy to be with you today. We got this.
We got this. We'll see you later. Bye.